it's me, Podcast Beach.
Stop there. I coughed just as she was going.
Can we keep that in? That's funny.
Right.
I was doing it just because that's what I always do for my intro. But the fact that you joined in, like, it shows that I have that kind of effect on people. But anyway, hello. It is me, Podcast Beach, joined by my other half, the wrestle pal, Kurt Johansson.
Hey. We're back.
We are back. Show. Episode 2, well done.
And episode 1, everybody will agree it was right slapdash.
It was very slapdash indeed. Let's see if we can keep that slapdash hype going for episode 2.
That's got to be the merch. Like when we come out, it can be #slapdash.
#slapdash. That's it.
You've got to use it in a promo. You've got to call somebody slapdash.
I'm totally gonna work that into a promo. I'll also call one of my moves the slapdash. I'll figure out which one, but
that'll be amazing. I will pop with that. I will pop. But yeah. Anyways, if you didn't catch the first one, it was all things Marvel, X-Men, WandaVision, and now it's random. So horror it is. We're going to be talking about all different horror things. Emily, what topics we're going to go about today?
Well, in honour of the fact that we are doing horror, I've actually put on one of my horror t-shirts, so it's like the bloody handprints and all that on it. So I thought, live up to the hype, you know.
I did not even realise that's how I'm like.
There you go.
I'm taking. Didn't even realise.
It's just me. I like to be festive when it comes to the horror things, you know. Like I'm that beach that Halloween's my favourite time of the year. You know, it's not Christmas, it's Halloween. That's mainly because all the sweets that I can get though, because I'm a hungry beach that way.
Hungry beach.
Hungry beach. #hungry beach.
But no, I'm excited. Like I think the first time we were speaking about horrors was me trying to explain the Scream TV show to you, and you hadn't really come across it. So we're gonna start speak. I don't really watch any of the new ones just because, again, fiance hates horror movies, and the only new ones that I've really watched, I'm like, that was just a waste of my time. Like, yeah. I prefer the Nightmare on Elm Streets and the original Scream movies and Halloween and even some of like the corny shit. Like, I'd sooner watch Freddy vs. Jason than some of like the new stuff.
Oh, I know, right? I know. It's like that brings us actually very nicely into what topics we're doing today. So I've got them all wrote here so that I can't get them wrong. So for like the first half of the podcast, because we were talking about like splitting this, weren't we?
Yeah.
So we'll just make it into a 2-parter because we've got a lot to discuss in terms of horror. So we'll cover our favourite slasher movies. I wanted to get our thoughts as well on the torture porn, sexual sort of gore movies that are out. So your Saws and your Tarantinos and all that. And of course, we're talking horror. So we can't talk about horror without Final Girls. So the greatest Final Girl in all of horror genre. And then, as you said about old school movies versus remakes, we will be discussing that. And horror TV shows, as you mentioned about Scream. And lastly, we'll be discussing upcoming horror movies and shows that we're excited for.
Oh, brilliant. So what are some of your favourite slashers?
So for me, I'm quite old school as well. So like my earliest memory in terms of horror was Nightmare on Elm Street. It's the very first one. And the reason I discovered it was, do you remember the analog cable boxes?
Yeah.
And it was like, so you only had like 40 channels on it. And certain channels after like 9 o'clock, they would change it to another channel. Yeah. So Cartoon Network would change it to TCM. And that was how I saw Nightmare on Elm Street. So I had the analog box in my room. I'm like about 7 or 8 years old. And I'm like going through the channels. I'm supposed to be sleeping at this point because early night and all that. But I'm flipping through channels and I stop on what I didn't know was a Nightmare on Elm Street. So it's the scene where Nancy's friend's getting dragged on the ceiling.
Yeah.
So it was that bit, and I was just like, what is going on here? This is terrifying. And then that was kind of where my love of horror began.
How old were
So
you here? Because again, dangerous to have Cartoon Network. Hey, let's what's automatically following this where kids may come across Nightmare on Elm Street.
Nightmare on Elm Street. To be fair, TCM was good because that was how I discovered like the Goonies and things like that too. So so it was like, but there's a difference between watching the Goonies on TCM at 9 o'clock and Nightmare on Elm Street. So, but yeah. So eventually, I found out the name of the movie. Like, I think I asked like my sister because my sister's older than me.
Yeah.
So I asked my sister about it, and she was like, "Oh, that sounds like Nightmare on Elm Street," and then I found the VHS of it back when you could go to like a Blockbuster. But where I'm from in Airdrie, we didn't have a Blockbuster. It was a Global. So
All right.
for those of you that remember the Global, so I went to Global and I rented the video of Nightmare on Elm Street, and I thought it was like the best movie ever. Robert Englund's one of my favorite horror actors,
Yeah.
but I will say, as much as I love Nightmare on Elm Street, it's 1 and 3 that are my favourites, and the rest of them I just don't see any point in because there's like 8 of them, and I'm like, why?
It was one of those where I think horror more than anything, or sometimes cheesy action films, they're the ones where they'll just turn them out and turn them out. Like I think Wrong Turn ended up having like, come on, how many times can somebody take a wrong turn? They were so him in the end. Like how many times? There's enough stuff out there to be like, if that looks sketchy, like even Beauty and the Beast, right? You look down one way, it's all dark and horror. The other one, it's all nice and sunny. You go down the nice and sunny, you don't go down the dark and horror. Like they've been teaching us from childhood. What were they watching?
Ah, I love that the move from Wrong Turn to Beauty and the Beast. I was not expecting that. It's like might as well just call it Wrong Turn 6. We get it, Beach. You've took a wrong turn.
Oh, definitely. In terms of Nightmare on Elm Street, was which one was it where I'm trying to think? There was two that stand out for me: the hospital, the mental asylum one.
Right. So that was 3.
Um,
That was Dream Warriors.
yeah, and then I think it was four, the one where there's the waterbed and the junkyard as well.
Oh yeah. So
Maybe four.
that might be 4. Yeah. That was the one that introduced. Or was it? I could be wrong. No, it was 3 that introduced Patricia Arquette into the movie scene. I think.
Yeah,
Because I
four.
know she got a big break from it. Because that seemed to be the trend back then, where it was if you got into a Nightmare on Elm Street movie, it kind of cemented your career. Because that's what happened with Johnny Depp.
Yeah. Right, 1 second. I keep hearing myself.
Have you been alright?
1 minute. No, so as I speak, you can hear it come through your end.
Oh, alright, that's weird.
Has that stopped? Yeah, now it's stopped. Don't
Hey!
understand that. Random show, random. I'm gonna keep that in. It's just some random shit. But yeah, I think it was It was Dream Eater, A Nightmare on Elm Street 4. I think they're the ones that kind of stand out. 1, 3, and 4 was always my go-tos when I'd go back to them, and I don't even know why. Like these were the ones I was watching as a child. And if ever there's a horror movie that you don't want to watch as a kid, it's one where the guy gets you when you're sleeping. Like,
Yeah.
I don't understand where my mum thought that was a good idea.
I've got a funny story about that from my childhood, just in you saying that. So me and my brother, we had watched Nightmare on Elm Street 7, so that was the Wes Craven's New Nightmare,
Yeah.
but it was all the original actors, but it was them actually playing themselves.
Yeah.
So it was, what's the actress's name that played Nancy?
Heather
Oh, Heather! That's it. So Heather. And the whole movie was about her, and like she goes to see Wes Craven. He's like, oh, it sounds like he's trying to break out the story, things like that. That was great. I'll give them that. That was great. They took it back to the old school Nightmare on Elm Street that way. But we watched that one, and it was. I remember being haunted as a child by the bit where it was her son. He runs into like the boiler
Yeah.
room, and it's like he goes into the what's it called, the incinerator, but he's hiding at the back like this. And Freddy's like trying to reach him with his tongue. but he can't because like the fires. Yeah, he does like that. It's like the tongue just comes out like a bloody, what is it, gene for cats? It comes out like that. But yeah. So I watched that. I found it a bit harrowing. Went to bed. My brother waited until I went to sleep, and then he crept in the room and he put his hand through like the duvet and he just went like that and grabbed my foot and he was like, "Freddy's gonna get you!" And I was like, "Ah!"
I'd have been kicking and throwing punches.
Oh, I did. I was like, "Ah!" I'm flinging a boot.
Like, why do you think they can't make them as good as they used to?
I think what it is just like as much as we've got like the special effects these days, and the budgets these days, I guess for lack of a better term, it's like I don't think they can capture the magic of it anymore because it's like sometimes the practical effects in that make it that more realistic for me.
Yeah.
So it's like you can tell a lot more passion has went into it because like they need to do so much more. Whereas these days it's like we can go, we'll just put in that effect, we'll just put in this effect, and it kind of takes you out of it sometimes.
Yeah, definitely. Like
Sometimes the writing gets bad as well, though. Cut like what you're saying about Wrong Turn, and there was like one of them. I didn't watch it. I was watching Dead Meat. Have you watched their YouTube channel?
No.
So Dead Meat, they do this thing called the kill count. And sometimes if I've not seen a horror movie, I'll watch the Dead Meat kill count about it. And they count how many kills there are. They give them like the golden chainsaw at the best kill, the bronze chainsaw at the worst kill and all that. It's pretty cool. So I watched them talking about, I think it was Wrong Turn 5. So I watched them talking about all the wrong turns because I've only seen the first one. And it got to like Wrong Turn 5 and I was like, what the fuck am I watching? Because it was like it was a story like I can't even do this justice for how bad it was. It was like so it was like the folk like we know that there was a little bit of incest in the Wrong Turn movies, right?
Bit.
But it was like a little bit, but it was like they took it to a whole new level in this fifth one. So it was like the guy that goes to this holiday place, it turns out he's like the last of the bloodline or something like that. So they're trying to get him to be incestuous with the other girl and all that. You're like, ah.
The fuck?
Yeah, but they really, really put emphasis on it, and then they put this really long, awkward sex scene in it too. And I was like, I did not need to see that. I'm glad I watched this on the Dead Meat kill count because like they censored it. Uh, and I'm just sitting there like cringing, like why? Like
So he did actually do some incestuous stuff to keep it going.
yeah, and because it was the whole thing like she needs to get pregnant to keep the bloodline going and that, and it just it was all creepy. Like, I'll send you like the kill count about it so you can see because I'm not gonna put you through watching the actual movie because that was horrifying.
I was gonna say, I was like, please don't send me that.
No, I'll send you the kill count because like James Janice, like he's the host of it. Like he's quite funny when he's talking about it too, because even he's like, "What the fuck is going on?"
No, I think it has to be like one of my. I think it's my favorite slasher is the Nightmare series, but there was just so many good franchises back then. Whether it was Scream or another one that I'd watched when I was younger was Chucky.
Yes, that's my all-time favorite, Chucky.
Absolutely loved Chucky, and the fact that they're remaking it into a TV show, aren't they?
Yes, and they've actually confirmed Jennifer Tilly and Brad Dourif are going to be part of it.
Oh wow! We'll have to leave that for later. I don't know, but it's it's just it's so good. Like I just thought the whole I didn't really get Seed of Chucky. I wasn't big on that one, but
that was just them kind of leaning more into the comedy because it was successful with Bride of Chucky. Yeah. Which, by the way, I've just remembered I have something cool to show you. 2 seconds, let me go get it. Right, I'm back. Ladies and gents, you're about to see my prized possession, my all-time favourite thing that I own.
You've got the doll.
I own a Tiffany.
That's
A
class.
replica Tiffany doll. And it's the Bride of Chucky version because that's my favourite. And if you push the back over, she actually talks. It's Jennifer Tilly.
That's amazing.
Yeah. She's got
That's
like
amazing.
she's got the little Chucky tattoo on her boob and everything.
I thought it was gonna be like she's got little Chucky tats and everything.
And she's got a re chain on. I don't know if you can see it, the Tiffany chain. And it
Yeah.
says Tiff, like in the movie.
Oh, that's class.
Yeah. She's my prized possession. I love her. The cats hate her though, like they're actually running away right now because I've got her out.
I really liked Bride of Chucky. I think the first one, Bride of Chucky, and I always enjoyed the one where he might be free, where he's in the army
Yes.
and he's in the cadets and they go paintballing and Chucky swaps the guns for paints to
Yeah.
actual live ammo and
And
starts throwing real grenades around.
that's the one as well where it's like he falls into the big like bin incinerator thingy,
Yeah.
like the rubbish truck in it. And he's like shouting like help, help, and then the guy jumps in and he crushes him himself with the rubbish and that. That was crazy. The second one was good too because that was like fucked up when he got melted at the end because I was like, there's no coming back from that, and then he did.
Surprise.
Did
How
you
was
see
it
the new ones that came out, Kurt? Just for
2019? I've not
topic.
seen it.
Really?
I've not seen it because again, I don't really get a chance to watch horror movies, and
Yeah.
I think although I liked A Nightmare on Elm Street to some extent, I was
Mm-hmm.
still like, I've still not even seen its remake yet.
Its remake I would highly recommend. Like I love the original one with Tim Curry because I love Tim Curry.
Yeah,
But the reiteration that they do of it, splitting into like they do it like the old one where they split part one all about the kids, part two is
yeah,
about these grown ups. Really good. I thought that I always get the Skarsgård brothers mixed up. This one was Bill Skarsgård, I
yeah.
think. He was really good. He was really good.
I'll have to have a look at it. It's it's just one of them. I hate watching something that's remade and it not being. It kind of puts like a bad taste in my mouth, I guess.
Yeah.
Because they've done it to so many with all these different sequels, and I think whilst we're on the topic of the remakes as well, there was something I wanted remade, and it was Nightmare on Elm Street.
Mhm.
And there was a trailer where I watched the trailer and I was like, that looks absolutely class. And I showed one of my friends from work who liked the old school Nightmare on Elm Streets, and again he was like, that looks great, and it was a fan made one where
Oh
they had
wow.
a character for, I can't remember which movie, but they had one of the characters from it, and it was just so well done where the murders start coming back and they blame him because if they look deep into his background, he went somewhere where a lot of people died, and there's always a scene in the trailer, and I don't think it ever got made, but there was always a scene in the trailer where he's just getting ready to go to work and his little girl's just sat there singing. Like
Oh wow.
he's not thought about it for ages, but his little girl's just sat there singing it. He's like, and he was kind of confused, and then she's drawn a picture and she's like, "Hey, Daddy, I drew this," and his face kind of drops and he's like, "Who is that?" And he's like, "I've drawn a picture of my friend Pizza Face." So the dad goes over and looks, and he's like, "He doesn't like it when I call him that, though. He says his name's Freddy," and the dad just like face drops. And I just thought the way the trailer was, I thought that'd been fantastic for him to do
Yeah.
it because it captured the terror of, like, you could feel the terror of the actor where he's like
Yeah.
scared and stuff like that, and I thought they did that really well.
You've got to send me the link to that because that sounds amazing. While you brought up this topic now, what is with the whole fan made versus like actual remix? Because a lot of the fan made stuff on YouTube just ends up being so much better. Because there
I,
was a trailer that again fans made, and it was to The Strangers. It was before I think Strangers 2 was confirmed.
I've not seen Strangers 2, but The Strangers absolutely amazing.
Yes, yes, I thought that movie was brilliant. It was really good at building up the tension. I
Yeah,
thought because I always say that Korean horror movies and Japanese horror movies are good at building up the tension and building up just the way in which things are gonna go. So you're sitting there and you feel the fear before even anything's happened. And the Strangers captured that perfectly. So it was these people. I'll need to send it to you.
Yeah.
They made a trailer to Strangers 2, and they took the song from Tiffany, I think We're Alone Now, and they played the normal version of it, and it was kind of like first person mode, and it was like as if it was one of the strangers, and they're going about the person's house.
Yeah.
And they go into the little girl's room and they put it on the record, and it's I think We're Alone Now's playing. It's the normal like upbeat song, and then it cuts to them like writing stuff on the mirror, and then it's like it all just like cuts, and it goes back, and it's the person's jumped out the window because they can hear police sirens and stuff, and they're running, and then it's like this kind of a grungy, dark version of I think We're Alone Now starts playing. It's all distorted, and you don't see the person's face. It's just all first person. So you see their hands get into the sink, and they drop the knife into the sink, and it's covered in blood, and their hands are covered. Oh, it's amazing. And I thought they really should have done the Strangers 2 like that, because that was insane.
In first person.
Yeah.
So it was a bit like what they've been doing with the Resident Evil remakes and stuff like that, where it's all first person and you just tend to shit yourself when things jump out.
Oh, I know. Like, that game was terrifying. Like, my brother did not like Resident Evil 7, and he was the one that got me into the Resident Evil games. So I was so disappointed. I was like, dude, you're just not giving this a chance.
It was very different.
Mm-hmm.
Like, it took a new story and stuff like that. It was very different, but I felt it captured the suspense, like as you're walking and the stuff like that. I've not felt that since I was a kid playing Resident Evil 1, 2, 3, and arguably Code Veronica. So I think, although it was very different, I appreciated it because it moved it away from the action side of things. Mm-hmm. Because like 5 and 6 and 5 and 6, and I think
so 4 it was when it was a little bit horror but a little bit more actiony, and then 5 was transitioned into full on action.
4 was Leon, 5 was Chris in Africa, 6 was just and then there was 7. But I felt like it was great. It was really good, and I'm looking forward to the new one coming out.
Oh my god! I was talking about this the other day. What's with all the thirst for the lady vampire? Like, have you seen that on Twitter? People are doing like fan art of her and stuff, and it's very raunchy. And it's like
it turns out a lot of men want to be pegged. just to put it out there bluntly, like, apologies to some of the listeners, but like you mentioned, like, a lot of it was raunchy, and a lot of people were getting thirsty over some big dominating vampire, but then in the real life they probably won't date anybody that's taller than them.
I mean, it's a very slapdash thing of them, but
something tells me they wouldn't want it rushed or careless.
Like, I read an interview with the producers of the new Resident Evil game, and they were talking about all their influences for 8. They said just like 7, we wanted to strip it back to horror, and they always had the intention of doing it in a village, but they wanted it to be very like the Romanian sort of a villages, not how like you would see in like the Dracula movies, and stuff. So they're like, we want to do it in a castle, and they were determined they were going to do it in a castle, and then they wanted it to be like aristocrats and stuff. So that's why the lady vampire, because I can't pronounce her, lady, was it Damascus or something like that?
Lady Damascus or something.
Mm-hmm. And it's so that's why she's an aristocrat, and why she's got kind of like a little coven as well, because they wanted to delve into more of the witchy stuff. But they were talking about why she is so tall, like where the inspiration came behind that, and I found it so interesting. It's actually based on a Japanese urban legend.
Oh.
And it's I'll get the name of the creature, but it was
because I find it interesting because they've got away from the zombie Wesker saga, and they've got 7, they've got Village, and then just from the trailers, I've not played the demo. I don't want to. I never play the demos, but I think the next one will lead. I think there will be a trilogy of them at least, where it's the same story, because it seems like it's powerful families, and it's the brother of Damascus was in 7, then his hair, and then I think whatever's in 9 is going to be the equivalent of having to face Nemesis in 3.
Yeah, I totally agree. Like, I've not played the 3rd remake yet, but I've played the 2nd one.
So good.
So good. Did you see that trend that was going on with Resident Evil 2, and it was with Mr. X, and it was like a mod that you could get on the PC version, and it was, if he was getting near you, it would be X gonna give it to you to start playing. So there's like people that would put up their gameplays from the PC version, and it'd be quiet, and it'd be like first person, and you would see them like with the gun like this and stuff, and then it would be all you hear is like gradually getting louder. X gonna give it to you, and then turn around, they're like, like that, and like they're pure screaming and stuff. Right, so I've got it here about. I'm gonna attempt to pronounce this. So it says here that her name is Lady Dimitrescu. Lady Dimitrescu, and I could be pronouncing that wrong, I'm sorry. But so our big influences are Morticia Addams for the gothic look, and the serial killer Elizabeth Bathory. That's what she's supposed to be based on. I'm just trying to find the urban legend, because there's a reason why she's 9'6" tall.
Yeah.
So it's a Japanese urban legend. Oh, there we go. So it's based on the Japanese urban legend the Hashaku-sama, and it's the story of it goes that she's a monster that's supposed to be about 8 feet tall, and her distinctive features were that she wore a long white dress and a wide brimmed hat, so that's why the lady has a wide brimmed hat. And it's the story goes, like the urban legend goes something like that there was a young guy, and he was going this village to go see his grandparents, and as he passed the threshold of it's like the deities that sit outside the village, as he crossed that, he started hearing like a giggling sort of a noise, and I think it's like a clicking noise, so kind of like a noise or something like that he could hear. And it was supposed to be, he turned around and he saw a woman in a white sundress with a white brimmed hat, and he tried to talk to her, and he was like, hello, and she didn't respond. She kind of just kept going like that at him, and then she disappeared. So he asked his grandparents about it and was like, is there someone in this village that looks like this, and she does this? And apparently the granddad kind of goes in shock, and he's like, that's the Hashaku-sama. We need to get you out of this village pronto. And it's supposed to be, if she takes a liking to you, you die within a couple of days. So this was her kind of a marking him. And so they got him out the village, and he was told to never return. And the story kind of ends like, even when his granddad died, he didn't go to the funeral at the village. And then it's like the last bit of the story, like the ending's supposed to be, but in the distance somewhere he can hear and all that, and it's so that's the urban legend to it that the lady's based on. So it's pretty interesting.
No, that is. I like that they look at stuff like that, because it's intriguing. But I think she's the first villain that people are probably not going to want to kill.
Yeah, they're like, no, I'm going to spare the lady because I love her and she's pretty and she's 9 foot tall. I just want to brush her hair and feed her grapes.
Have you heard that they're going to be? Aren't they doing this Silent Hill? They're going to pull the trigger on actually doing another Silent Hill film now. Not film, movie, game.
Really? Oh, that's interesting. Because they fucked up big time with those remasters. Like, I was so disappointed in those. I was like, I would rather go and play the originals. Thank you. Yeah.
Again, that was a game where it has the suspense and the horror behind it, and I can't remember what it was supposed to be, but they were supposed to do a remake like 2 or 3 years ago, and they pulled the plug. But I'm sure I read somewhere that I think because of the success of Resident Evil, I think they're gonna revisit it because.
Oh, I know exactly what one you're talking about now. So they were going to do one called Silent Hills, and Norman Reedus was supposed to be the star of it.
Oh wow!
Yeah, like they actually in the teaser trailer, you see his face. as he's entering Silent Hill, and everyone was, oh my god, it's not remade this, and it's like Walking Dead meets Silent Hill, and then they tried to do extra hype with it by bringing out the PT, the playthrough, and that was the one where it's first person, you're going through like this creepy house, and like you said, for some reason they just cancelled it. But I think, like you said, they've seen the hype now, and they're like, no, we kind of need to put this back on the table.
Yeah, especially with all the success that they've made, definitely. But moving on to like the gore and stuff like that, then.
Yeah.
What do you think to it? Like, I thought it was something new completely, especially when Saw came out.
Yeah.
And to like cut off his own like foot and. But then I've watched some more because I think these are the only ones that Jazz will watch because they're not jump scares. It's
more psychological, sort of scary. So like, this is what I was actually talking to my brother about the other day in terms of Saw, because that was predominantly one of the more gory ones that I saw for the first time in terms of the horror genre. So I watched the first one, and I thought the first one was superb because it wasn't just all people getting killed and lots of gore. There was like gore where there needed to be gore, like you said, when the guy had to cut off his foot, and it's the way that they're building up the suspense. You're sitting watching it on the edge of your seat, and you're like, he's not gonna do that, and then when he starts doing, you go, oh fuck, he's actually doing this. And then you think it's gonna cut away or something, but it's just showing you full force him cutting off his foot, and it makes you cringe, but you want to watch it. It's like a car accident, or you can't look away. But like, I liked the first one because they really built up the suspense with it, because like by the end, when you didn't know that Jigsaw was actually in the family's house, because he said to the guy that he had trapped that he was going after his family or something like that, and then you realise that he's in the house with the pig mask and stuff on. So it was like, all that was nice, but then I felt like as it went on, maybe not so much with 2 and 3, I felt like those ones were okay, but when the stuff bring like 4, 5, 6, 7, it just felt,
ones and
and it just got to a point where you're sitting going, I think that literally the writers are just sitting there going, what kind of a contraptions can we make this time that's going to be gory and make people cringe? It's not so much about the story anymore. Because then they're a bit contrived as well, where they keep adding things onto the story, and it's like, well, this is before Jigsaw actually died, but he dies in this one, but this one's before then that happens, and this person get introduced, but it was she met him then, and things like that.
The proper reach.
You try to piece it all together, and you're like, what?
Because I did actually get the Jigsaw, because I play Warzone, and Jigsaw was one of the characters that you could buy to run around in, so I'm literally running around as Jigsaw with a mask on and stuff like that, just trying to kill people.
Wow, that's awesome. I don't know, it was a character you could get on that. That's actually pretty cool.
It was either, I think it was that, and then there was Friday the 13th.
How good is that game, by the way? Have you played it?
I've not played it.
It's fun. See, if you go on YouTube and you sit and watch other people playing it too, that's a right laugh. Like, I've watched my brother sitting playing it too, and I thought it was hilarious. And you all get a turn each of being the killer and things like that.
I stayed away from it just because I thought every time they've turned films into games, they just end up being absolutely rubbish. So I think I've got it though. I think it was a free game on the PlayStation, so I think I might have it on my library where I own it and I can download it. So I might have to have a look at it.
You definitely need to have a look at it. It's a right laugh when you play it online with people, and it's if you're playing as Jason and you start creeping up on people, like the starts playing and all that.
I'll have to have a look at it.
What's your thoughts then on the gore?
It's one of those, again, with the first couple of Saws, I enjoyed the storyline to it, and the others, it's a story, it's not keeping me hooked, so it's why I don't really watch horrors as much now, because it is a case of, it's a bit like action movies where it's like, let's just have a massive crash or a massive thing just for the sake of it, and Saw have kind of gone through that. Like, I get why some people enjoy it. It's not my go-to. Like, I think apart from The Strangers, like new films don't really hit the same way. And I was really excited about Insidious. I thought Insidious looked really good. And I remember watching that by myself in pitch black, just sat in my room, and I put it on about 9 o'clock, 10 o'clock at night, and I thought, oh, this looked good in the trailers. I'm going to enjoy this. And then it just turned out in the trailers, they put all the scare bits, and the rest of the film just, to me, wasn't as great. Like, the moment where the baby monitor is having the sound and then it roars, why would you put that in? Why would you put that in a trailer?
Yeah.
Because I guarantee if you didn't put that in the trailer where people were going to expect it, that would have been one of those, and having to try and calm yourself down again. And
I do agree with you on that. It's like what you were saying, how they put a lot of the like when it's the bit when she's talking to the medium, and the medium turns around and she looks and it's the red guys behind her. Like that it's like you say, that's a moment where you could have been like when you saw it in the movie, but because you saw it in the trailer, you go, oh, right, that's what's about to come up.
Yeah, I think, and I get it's one of those where I get they need to get people into the movie theaters to watch it, but at that point when all your best bits are what's shown in the trailer, then it just proves your film's not great.
I will say Insidious did still manage to scare me, and it was with the bit when the dad needs to astral project and get their son back.
Yeah.
And it's like all that bit I thought was amazingly shot, the way that they've done it, the way that they're interpreting the spirit world in that sense. And but the bit that scared me was when he goes into the red guy's lair, and it's that Through the Tulips is playing. Like to this day, I can't listen to that song. It's anytime I hear it, because I remember Celebrity Juice, I think it was.
Yeah.
They were doing like a Keith Lemon versus Jedward segment, and it was like Around the World they were calling it. And at one point they played Through the Tulips to it, and I just went, nope, no, I'm not interested. I'm muting this.
But that's the frustrating bit though, where something where they do it well, but it's only the ending. Like, again, it was just everything up until the ending. You knew all the good bits. You'd seen it in the trailer, essentially, and I think you get that a lot now. I've not seen any of the other Insidiouses. Isn't there like 3 now?
There's 4. There's 4, and I think there's a 5th one coming out. But I will say, so far I've seen 4 of them. I think I've seen all 4 of them. So I've seen the first one. I thought it was more scarier at the end, like we were saying. 2 was great because of the way they built up the atmosphere. Because the way that the first one ended, it was the black bride possessed the dad.
Yeah.
Spoiler alert for anyone that's not seen it. I'm sorry, but and then it was the whole second movie was about the wife knows that there's something off with the husband, and she's trying to figure out what it is, and then she realizes what's happened, and I think the son had to astral project to actually get the dad back. I'm not sure. I can't really remember much. I just distinctly remember being haunted by the image of the black bride, like, you know, where it was like the smile, like that. And I was like, oh no, like, but they went into a little bit more background about the black bride. It turned out that it was a guy that was a serial killer, and that was kind of what he would dress as when he would do it. And I think it was like he had mum issues or something like that, and that's why he dressed as the black bride. But it was good the way that they delved into the background. And then the third one was meant to be a prequel, so it was to explain how the medium met those 2 guys, so that they became like the company that they are, and how they got all the technology and stuff. It was pretty pointless, if I'm being honest. Like, I sat and I watched it, and I was just like, there's no need for this.
What's happening in the 5th one? Is it the family dog having to astral project to save the family?
They get a dog called Astral. His occupation is the astral projects.
So
I'm actually going to look that up right now, because that's actually bothering me. And we'll get a right laugh at this. So it says here that the way that they do Insidious is that they call it like chapter 2, Chapter 3 and all that for the sequels. Yeah. Oh, there we go. So the fourth one was called The Last Key.
Okay.
And it's about Elise. They kind of delve into Elise's story a little bit more, the medium. And I'm just looking for a quick synopsis thing. It's supposed to talk about like her background with her family and stuff. It shows you like kind of the first time she uses her power when she's a child, and then it goes to 2010 when you actually see her working with Specs and Tucker. I'm trying to see how it ties in with because I can't actually remember. The demon in this one's called Keyface, so that's what it says. I'd be quicker just looking to see how it. Oh, that's how it ties in with the original movie, so it's a prequel. It says, in her sleep, Elise has a dream about Dalton and a red-faced demon. She awakens and receives a call from a woman named Lorraine. Elise has helped her son years earlier. Now her grandson Dalton needs the same help, which Elise agrees to help. So it's supposed to be like going right into the first movie after that.
Okay. Yeah, I don't know where they'll go with that, but moving on, like, what about your final girl then? What's your greatest? Like, there's so many that I was thinking of where I was like, but they're great, and then I'd think of somebody else. I'm like, but they're great.
Yeah, I done the exact same. So one of the first ones that popped into my head was Nancy.
Yeah.
Because I was so sad when she died in the Dream Warriors.
Yeah.
But I get it. It was supposed to be the passing of the torch of the final girl.
Yeah.
And but yeah, I thought Nancy was amazing because just the thing that I loved about her in Nightmare on Elm Street was she wasn't necessarily afraid of Freddy. She was just like, right, I know exactly what's happening here. I'm gonna pull him out of my dream, and then she says to Johnny Depp, "You need to be here to grab him when I pull him out," and all that. And then she goes into like a Home Alone sort of a montage where you see her setting up booby traps about her house for when she pulls him out. And she was just so badass, I thought, because of that. And
Nancy was great. Like, obviously, being one of our favourite movies, she was bound to come into that. Like, I don't know if she's my favourite one. Like, I think watching Alien was great. And I think like Ellen Ripley has to be in that conversation. I know it kind of went more action based, but the first one's a horror. The first one's horror, and Ellen Ripley
100%.
Is
you know what gets me about like Ripley was that Ripley was fucking right all along in that first movie because she kept saying to them, "I don't think that's a good idea. I think we should do this instead." And then it was the crew were just like, "No, we're not gonna listen to you." And then she's like the last survivor, kind of just like, "I told yous."
Yeah. And it was just something so different as well, because a lot of the time, some of the final girls, you see them where they might be quite, and like not really knowing what's going on, and
it's like the spoof in Scary Movie, and it's Shannon Elizabeth, and she's like, "Okay, I'm gonna run now."
Oh no, I fell over.
Oh no, I've twisted my ankle. I can't get away now, scary killer.
Like, I don't know if scary movies change my perception of Scream, just because sometimes I see Ghostface Killer and I'm just picturing the big clown penis going under the bed, getting one of them and stuff like that. And
I always imagine when he's smoked the blunt and then his face changed from Ghostface to like the stone Ghostface, and he's got his tongue out like. And they all do like, "What's up?
What's up?
What's up?" But like, I used to think the Scary Movie ruined this bit for me in the original Scream, because another final girl I was going to say that deserves a credit is Sydney.
Yeah.
Neve Campbell. So it's like, you know, the bit where, because she was constantly fighting with Ghostface, it was like the bit where he gets into her house and she's running up the stairs and she's just flinging like vases and stuff at him and that, and then she gets into the room and she locks the door and she sends like she sends the email for help. But anyway, It's Scary Movie ruined that bit for me because they did it where Cindy was running up the stairs, and it was just this long, ridiculous sequence of she's flying stuff at Ghostface downstairs. She pushes a grandma down the stairs. She pushes a piano down the stairs.
Like it does take away, and I think Scary Movie was great, but it does take away from Scream. I don't know if that's the reason why I may not put it so highly. I do think I've got to go with, obviously there's Jamie Lee Curtis in Halloween. She's fantastic, but I think I was torn between Ellen Ripley, but I think I've got to go with Nancy, just because, especially in 3, where you've got that big moment where it's the final girl coming back to have that face off and fight the big serial killer, and although it's the passing of the torch, it was still a real good moment just to kind of wrap that up.
The bit that really cemented it as well with Nancy's return is when she goes into the dream world and she goes to save Patricia Arquette's character, and then Freddy turns around and sees her, and he literally says, "Not you again."
Yeah.
And that just said it all right there.
Because that there is basically putting her on Freddy's playing field. It's like you've got Freddy versus Jason, where it's too big. They've got their own magic with that because it shows the vulnerability, and then when she finally dies, it's like, oh shit, like Freddy's finally come over something that he was actually scared of.
I totally agree. It's like well, this is a very interesting one as well for Final Girls that popped into my head. So I'm a big fan of the Evil Dead movies. So the original ones, I love Bruce Campbell. I think he's amazing. You need to watch them. They're amazing, especially Army of Darkness, because that's where it gets into the more dark comedy. There's like a bit, so he gets blasted through time because of a spell in the Necronomicon, because that's how the demons come out into the cabin in the original movie. They all read the Necronomicon.
Yeah.
And the demons come forth from that. So it's at the end of the second movie, he gets sucked into a portal from the Necronomicon, and it takes him back in time, and he's in like medieval times. But in the third movie, it's all about him trying to get back to his present time, and it's just all these things keep going wrong. So it's like the priest in medieval times is like, you need to say these 3 words before you touch a Necronomicon book. It's in this graveyard. And he remembers what the first 2 words, and he's like, Plato, something, and he can't remember the third word, so he goes, and then he picks it up, and he thinks like that's going to justify it. But anyway, main reason you need to watch it is they think he's a god in this, and it's literally because he's got a shotgun.
Yeah.
And they've never seen a shotgun before, so he shoots it, and he goes, "This is my boomstick." And that's like the greatest moment ever. But anyway, so they did a remake of Evil Dead, and they kind of changed the story a little bit. So in the original story, it was Bruce Campbell, Ash, his girlfriend, his best friend, his girlfriend, and then Bruce Campbell's sister in it. And it's the sister that gets possessed first, and that's kind of when everyone starts getting possessed as well, so it kind of passes on and stuff. And it's they follow that formula in the remake. So it's the sister, I can't remember the sister's name in it, but so she's the one that gets possessed first, and everyone else, like, she attacks everyone else, and then it's after you get attacked.
Yeah.
And after they get attacked, they then they all start turning. And it's but then they do a bit where it's like the brother that you think's supposed to be Ash, like the Ash of the movie, he actually brings her back by like making a defibrillator, and he actually brings her back from the dead. So then like they do this big plot twist where she ends up being the Ash of the movie. So she takes on that mantle, and she becomes the final girl, because in the Necronomicon in this, it's supposed to be like a ritual rather than just demons come alive and that's it. So it's supposed to be the demons come alive, and they're supposed to claim 4 or 5 souls, and then it brings forth the abomination, which is supposed to be like the ultimate evil. and because technically like 4 or 5 souls have been claimed at this point, the abomination comes forth, and like she's having the big showdown with the abomination. She's trying to get away, and as she's trying to get away, like the truck falls onto her arm, and that explains how she loses her arm and she gets the chainsaw instead. And as I said, like it's one of the most badass things I've ever saw. Like when they built her up to be this person in the movie, like I think it's what's her name? But anyway, they build her up to be Ash's sister from like the original movie, but then she ends up being the Ash of the movie.
Yeah.
And it was superb. And it's like the special effects and stuff that they do, because it's like proper raining down blood, and she's like covered in blood, and then you get the token shot of her covered in blood, and she get the chainsaw arm, and she's holding the chainsaw out like this, and she get the shotgun like this, and it was superb. Honestly, I would highly recommend that. Highly recommend.
It sounds quite silly as well.
There's bits in it where you just laugh, because it's like they basically make sellotape out to be man's best friend in it for like first aid, because the girlfriend, the brother, she cuts off her arm because she sees it starting to get like possessed, and it's like doing all this and stuff, and it's mutating. So she decides, I'm gonna hack it off a piece of glass. So she starts hacking it off. The arm is literally hanging on by a tendon. She's standing there like, I just tried to cut off my arm. And then the boyfriend walks over and he sellotapes her arm up, and you're like, why? That's not first aid. and then the friend, no, he gets cut in the cheek. The friend gets cut in the cheek, and he literally takes the sellotape and he puts it across the cheek, and you're like, that's not proper first aid.
I'll have to have a look at it. So, would you say she's your favourite final girl?
Not my all-time favourite, but I would say she's in the top 5.
She deserves
to just for the turn of events.
So who is that number 1 then?
Number 1 spot for me is Nancy. I would say Nancy, 100%.
It has to be. I think would be hypocrites if we're both like, favourite slasher movie is Nightmare on Elm Street, but favourite final girl, it's not Nancy.
My favourite horror movie character of all time, though, is Tiffany from the Chucky series. Just because I love Jennifer Tilly and the way she portrays her. So.
I love the dynamic between Tiffany and Chucky.
Yeah.
It was just so different, and it worked. It really did work. So is the new one worth checking out? Yes,
100%. So if we're talking in terms of the Mark Hamill one, Mark Hamill's great at the voice acting. That you really get. This is the guy that voiced the Joker, you know what I mean? No,
he's my favorite Joker voice.
Yeah, 100%. So it's like, I would totally recommend. I wouldn't say it's necessarily better than the originals, because, like we said, like that you can't beat the originals. But it's good because it's not necessarily tried to be the original movie where it's a serial killer possessing a doll. What it's done is it's done a whole different take on it, where it's an animatronics went rogue and fucked up. So, like, when you go in with the understanding that it's not necessarily a remake, like, in that sense, where it's, all right, this is just another doll being possessed by a serial killer, and you're open-minded that way, you do enjoy it a lot more. But I'm trying to remember the order of them. There was Revenge of Chucky and Cult of Chucky, and those two tie on with the original movies. And
Cult came before them.
Did it? So
yeah.
Either way, like, I know, like, those two, the whole reason for them was to actually set up for the TV show.
Yeah.
Because the whole thing is like Chucky's kind of like a Horcrux in Harry Potter, but it's like little pieces of him are scattered everywhere. So it's like he can split his soul into different dolls.
Yeah. No, I'm excited. And I'm excited for the TV show because I actually enjoyed Scream, the TV show.
Yeah.
And like every show, it tends to get cancelled in the end.
Yeah.
But I think they told a good story in the seasons that they had, and then they had a special episode that came out on one of the Halloweens, and it was really good. I felt they did well considering it's all more modern times, and like you've got your smartphones and stuff like that now, and like technology's kind of amped up there. But I think they transitioned really well, and they made it where you was guessing the killer a lot more than like you made films and stuff like that. I thought I enjoyed it personally. Like I've watched every episode that was out, so I guess that's a good thing when I can't really get into many horrors these days. So
Yeah.
I'd definitely worth check it out.
I definitely will. Like the Scream TV show, that's kind of a like I don't know how else to describe it, but it's supposed to kind of be like Saw in the sense, but it's all like all booby traps and contraptions as well, isn't it? That's what I heard. Or
On
am
Scream,
I yeah, the Scream TV show? Or am I getting that wrong?
I don't think there might have been certain things where they've set up, and I think
Mm-hmm.
it wasn't as drastic as Saw, where they're
Mm-hmm.
making huge contraptions. But I
Yeah.
think they would use stuff that would make sense. So
Right.
I think there might, if I'm thinking, I'm sure there was one where it was like a tractor and stuff like that, or a wood chipper or something
Right.
along
Okay.
the lines. And it's because technology's increased, so there's so many natural stuff out there that they can use to kill
Mm-hmm.
people. If that makes sense. It's not
Right.
Ghostface running around making like loads of jigsaw contraptions or anything like that.
Yeah, 'cause I was gonna say I would have been disappointed if that's what they'd done with Scream, but now that I know that that's not the case, like I definitely will check it out. It's actually on my Netflix watch list right now. The thing I've been watching right now in terms of upcoming shows and whatnot, it's an old show, but it's coming to an end, so this is why I want to talk about it in the upcoming shows. It's Walking Dead.
Yes.
So I'm currently watching season 10 of that, so I've watched 5 episodes. I've been holding off so I could sit and binge it. So I'm on like episode 5 now,
Yeah.
and I was devastated to find out that they're ending the show after 11 seasons, literally because of COVID. That's what they said. They said we're ending it. It's season 11. That's it. That's all you're getting. But then they made my heart happy because I heard that Daryl's getting a spin-off show from it. So
Oh, is he?
yeah, Carol and Daryl.
Carol and Daryl. To be fair, I can see that because they've got so many different spin-offs now. There's Fear the Walking Dead. Then there was another Walking Dead one that's just come out as well
That
that I've not seen. But I'm
horror.
still I'm still watching it. I'm really enjoying The Walking Dead. I've got episode 19 of season 10 to watch.
Oh.
So I've watched two since it's come back, which I'm enjoying.
Mhm. I love it so much. It was the thing that really sold it for me because I wasn't sure initially if I was going to watch it or not, and then my brother said to me, "No, Michael Rooker's in it. You'll love it. Like you need to watch it." And when I saw him as Merle, I was like, "Yes, this is
Yeah.
it." And then that was when I discovered my love of Norman Reedus. When I saw him as Daryl, I was like, "Daryl is just such a badass. I love him so much."
He got a lot of hype out there, didn't he? Where
Mhm.
people didn't mind if Rick gets killed because Daryl should be the front and center, and it did lose some of its magic. I think might be like I think post Negan, it
Yes.
started getting really bit
Hmm.
dry, and I think with the Whisperers, they brought that magic back.
Yes.
The scene where
100%.
you think they finally surpassed it, but then they're all their stuffs
Hmm.
on, like the heads on the spikes and stuff. I thought that was
Yes.
amazing, amazing.
They
But
I did not think that they would be able to bring in a big bad that could beat Negan.
yeah,
And then they brought in Alpha. And when she did that, the head on the spikes, I was like, right, she's just cemented herself there as the new big bad. There we go. That was
100%,
superb.
hundred
But
percent.
the scene when they introduced Negan, though, I remember I was actually sitting like this, like watching it because I'd read the comics, so I knew that Glenn was possibly going to die here. And what I'd heard as well about the premiere episode was that someone else was gonna die, and I'm sitting there and I'm like, right, who's gonna die? Who's gonna die? And then he starts beating Glenn, and I'm like, my heart is breaking at this point because I knew it was coming, but it does not change the fact I'm like, oh, Glenn's dying here. And then he turns around and he starts killing Abraham, and I'm like,
Yeah,
oh my god, I did not think it was gonna be Abraham.
but because I heard that they kept that just because the one Abe was a badass, like
Mm.
he was, and they kept that because wasn't Abraham died in the comics through the arrow shot?
Yeah, he died through an arrow shot.
And they give it to a different character, like a smaller character that they slowly built up, because they wanted that where Abraham would be able to take a hit of the bat.
Yeah.
And then it's the second one that does him.
Yeah.
But I remember the hype and for that mid-season break where they're all lined up and you're like, who's going to die? Because it goes off and you're just hearing the smash.
And it's like what they've done with the trailer as well was they've got Negan, you hear Negan saying "Eeny, miny, mo," and you're like, who's it gonna be?
Amazing. I really enjoy it, and it's one of those where I do want to eventually just binge watch it through now, because I've watched the first couple of seasons a few times, but then since probably a couple of seasons before Negan, I've only watched whilst it's been out. I've not gone back to rewatch it yet, just because it's a lot of episodes, and I did Supernatural, and that's 15 seasons. So I'm like, I need a break from some long committed binge watching.
No, I know what you mean. It's like Walking Dead is one of those ones where it's like you say, at some points you felt like it was getting a little bit dry, because it was like, for me, it was the in between before we got Negan and after we just had the governor.
I don't
feel
want
like it was getting a bit dry then.
Yeah, I don't want them being civilized.
Yeah, I was like, I don't want to see them being civil. I want to see them like coming up against like other people that have maybe turned into cannibals, and then eventually we got that.
Yeah.
Where it was they get trapped in the slaughterhouse and they were going to get slaughtered in that, and it was so I was like, all right, that's cool. Then they were all civilized again, and I'm like, I don't want to see them being civilized. This is a zombie world.
Nah, it wouldn't surprise me if they did something for Negan as well. Like, I think he's got. He could do his own spin-off, or I don't know what route they're going to go down. I know they want to get that movie out there as well.
Yeah. So it's like.
Do you think the movie will be successful?
I think the movie will be successful, especially the Andrew Lincoln one, because this is us going to see what actually happened to Rick. Because as far as everyone knows in the show, he's dead.
Yeah.
That was a big shock to me, by the way, where it turned out that Michonne was pregnant with Rick's baby. Because when she's like, RJ, I was like, who's RJ? And then I saw this little boy and I was like,
Yeah, I can see the final episode. I could imagine where Rick's back, and then it'll be the movie.
Yeah.
Because Michonne's left her kids and trying to find Rick, so it'll be interesting. Like, I really enjoy it. Like, I've literally got episode 19 on my phone ready to watch.
I can't wait. Like, honestly, as soon as we're done with this, I'm gonna watch more. Like, I'm completely invested. It's I'm very excited to see how they're gonna. As much as I'm sad the show's gonna end, I'm very excited to see how they're gonna close the chapter with the Whisperers.
Yeah.
And where they're gonna go from that, because personally, I will say I'm glad that they're ending the show before it gets stale.
Yeah.
I'm grateful for that, and I'm grateful that they're ending on such a high with an enemy like the Whisperers. Because I would have been disappointed if they ended it with like they start doing like that mad slaughterhouse thing, and we're sitting here like, all right, so this is all we're getting before the show ends.
Because what's happening at the moment? Because I could have easily dropped spoilers in there, so I'm glad I didn't. What's actually happened on yours so far?
So what I've watched so far is that Negan has escaped because he saved Lydia, because those people in is it Alexandria? Because I always forget.
Yeah.
It's Alexandria that Lydia's in, yeah. Oh yeah, it is, because it is Alexandria, because I distinctly remember Michonne saying on the intercom thing when she's talking to Daryl, like, keep Lydia safe in Alexandria, because that's the only way we're going to be safe from Alpha. She could have taken us all out, but she didn't, because she knows that we have Lydia.
Yeah.
And so they're trying to speculate right now what the deal is with Alpha, like what's she planning, because it's a lot more frequent that they're getting waves of walkers coming to the gates, so they're having to go out and take care of them. And they say it in the council meeting, but then Lydia's kind of a retorting that, where she's like, no, if it was Alpha, she would just send the Horde if she wanted rid of you all.
Yeah.
So I'm on that part. I've also seen Carol is trying to avoid sleeping, so she's taking those caffeine tablets.
Yeah.
And it's because she keeps having recurring nightmares about Henry.
Good. So that has happened, because when you was on about Still the Whisperers, I was like, wait, what part could she be up to? Because you may not be up to where I am. I was like, oh, if I've just spoiled the Spikes, I was like, that's going to be right.
No. I've seen all that. Like, I felt so bad for Carol because it seems to be the curse of Carol in the show, where she can't have like a child be close with her because they die.
How many is that? 4, 5, 6?
So
Her daughter to begin with.
Henry, her daughter Sophia. She had the two little girls where it was Look at the Flowers. I'll never forget that. Look at the Flowers. I feel like I'm missing one or two.
She didn't she end up killing some in the prison as well, just because they had the infection, or they had like that flu or whatever it was, and
yeah, that was the Look at the Flowers.
Yeah.
She told them to look at the flowers, and she shot them in the back of the head.
Delightful. Like, that woman's been through some right trauma, but her growth from the first episode is amazing.
Yeah. What I love about the development of Carol is that not only have we seen her grow as a person, like mentally, like she's went from the scared, abused woman into one of the leaders of the three main areas, and it's not only that, the fact that she went from having extremely short hair because she didn't want her husband to be able to grab it, like because he would pull her about and stuff. I think she says that to like Daryl or someone. And we go, like, when it flashes forward and we see she's with Ezekiel, she's got the long hair, and it's supposed to be that symbolism that she now feels confident and in a safe place, and she'll never put herself in that position again and things. So it broke my heart when I saw that she lost Henry, because you knew that was devastating to her, because this was finally her with the family that she wanted. She had Ezekiel and she had Henry, and yeah. And then her and Ezekiel broke up. It was so sad.
No, 100%. I'm looking forward to it. What else are you looking forward to that might be coming out then? Because I think we've already kind of spoke about that, like with the Chucky TV show, and
we've talked about the Chucky TV show. We talked about the last season of The Walking Dead that's coming out. I think there was talks of. I'm actually gonna check this right now before I say it's definitely coming out.
Is the Resident Evil TV show?
That's exactly what I was about to check. Like,
so there's two of them. One of them is based on Albert Wesker's daughters.
Right. Okay.
And I think it's when they're young, pre-outbreak.
Mm-hmm.
And then when they're older, post-outbreak, or kind of like midst the outbreak.
Right,
And
okay.
when that came out, I was like, not sure if I'm going to enjoy that. And then they've announced, I believe it's still going to be another TV show where they're casting Chris and Leon and Claire and the main characters. And I think the casting so far, from what I've looked at, so exciting.
Oh yeah, 100%. Like, I'm glad that they're finally actually going to do a proper Resident Evil show, because it was one of those ones where Resident Evil's done everything else except a show.
The movies, you know what, I didn't mind them for what they were. They was very actiony. They're kind of like one of my shit watches, where I'll happily watch. But no, I'm so excited for especially the one where it's around. I believe the one where they've casted like Claire, Chris, Leon. I believe the first season's kind of going to be maybe The Mansion and Resident Evil 2. I think they're kind of going to be season 1.
So that's what I heard. I heard that season 1 was going to focus in particular with The Mansion and the events of Resident Evil 2.
Yeah.
Because that's all supposed to be, like, in the games anyway, that's all supposed to be, the original trilogy is all supposed to be at the one time or something.
More or less it is. So there's a difference between 1 and 2 by maybe like a week or something like that.
Yeah, it's a week, and then 2 and 3 are set at the exact same time. So when everything's going on with Leon and Claire, and then you see Jill with Nemesis in 3, that's all supposed to be happening at the same time.
More or less, yeah. Or I think it may be a case. I don't know if it's different with the remake, but I think 2 and 3, it's the same time, and then when Jill gets poisoned and she's out conscious for a while, that speeds up the where it's in front of 2, and I think a lot of it. So good.
And Resident Evil Outbreak, like that, the subgenre game that came out, that's supposed to be set at the exact same time as well, apparently.
I've not touched them, just because
really?
I get scared of spin-offs because I'm like,
no. Honestly, I swear, play Outbreak. It's so good. Like, you can play it 2-player as well, because me and my brother used to play it.
We'll 2-player it online.
Yeah, we should totally 2-player it. Like, I'm totally up for that. If we can actually play it online.
We'll have to have a look at it.
I hope we can play it on 2-player, because that'd be awesome. Oh, that was another TV show I wanted to touch on, in fact, if we're talking about like horror. It kind of goes into more supernatural horror, but I wanted to give it a little shout out anyway because I enjoyed it. It was The Chilling Adventures of Sabrina. Have you watched that?
I haven't.
Watch that. See if you liked, because we were talking about it, the Winx saga, where they did like the remake of Winx Club. Watch Chilling Adventures of Sabrina, because it's like instead of it being like the 90s sitcom, they delve into more of the darker side of things. So it delves more into I don't want to say Satanists, because I wouldn't really say it was Satanists and that.
Yeah.
But it's actually based on comic books as well. Like Chilling Adventures of Sabrina was its own comic book series. And
I might be able to get the missus to watch that one.
Like honestly, I think you and Jazz will enjoy that one. So and it's only 4 seasons, so you'll make your way through it. And it's they kind of keep everything the same. That Sabrina's a half mortal. She goes to live with her aunties, but they've done it in the sense where on her 16th birthday, in order to receive like her full potential of power, even though she's a half mortal, she needs to sign the book of the Dark Lord, and he kind of bestows the power on her. But she keeps refusing to sign it and stuff. She runs away from the ritual, and it's like all these weird rituals and stuff happen in the story. So Salem doesn't talk.
Yeah.
They can understand each other. They've got like a little kind of a psychic connection. But it's the reason she gets Salem, instead of him just being there and like the sitcom where it was he used to be a warlock and he got turned into a cat. It's he is her familiar, but it's like a ritual that witches can do, where they can either pick their own familiar, or they can do a ritual to call out to the universe to see who's going to answer them. Yeah. And it's a goblin answers. You don't see the goblin. It's just you hear the voice, and it's basically a goblin answers Sabrina's ritual, and he comes in the form of a cat called Salem, and she's basically got like a goblin taking on the form of a cat that's their familiar.
I'll have to have a look at it. It's been one of those where there's just so much to watch these days.
Yeah.
But now I'll definitely have to have a look at it. And who knows what our next topic will be. We'll have to, again, that random show. So if there is anything in particular what people want us to talk about, feel free to let us know. But where can everybody find you?
Everyone can find me. Here we go. I'm going to see if I know this off by heart now. Everyone can find me at Emily Hayden _UK on Twitter, _Emily Hayden _ on Instagram, and then if you type into Facebook Emily Hayden, my mug will appear. But also if you catch my YouTube, just type in Emily Hayden, it's the exact same thing there. And twitch.tv /tweetspeech _ Emily Hayden, where I frequently do my streams, especially now. I've been getting right into my streams now.
No, definitely. So make sure you do go check those out. We'll put them in the description as well. Follow me at @Johansson _ on Instagram and Twitter, at Johansson Show on Twitter for my show, and the Kate Johansson Show on Facebook and Instagram.
And make sure you like and subscribe to his YouTube channels, because he's got a lot of exciting content coming out.
Thank you.
No worries.
All right, until next time, bye for now.
Bye, BJ.